Hello, and welcome to Pope St. John the 23rd's National Seminary 39th Annual Lawn Party. We hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy, and we're so happy that you're able to join us this year virtually. My name is Father Brian Kiley, and I'm the rector here at Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary in Weston, Massachusetts. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this year's lawn party. Tonight, we have a very wonderful event planned. We will learn more about the seminary and our current initiatives. We'll hear from our gracious host, His Eminence Sean Cardinal O'Malley, the Archbishop of Boston. We'll meet some of our seminarians and our alumni who will share their stories and their meaningful experiences. And we'll meet some of the special people who support and contribute to making the seminary what it is today. Pope St. John the 23rd has a unique mission for men answering the call to the priesthood. You will see that mission and its impact upon the Catholic Church around the world.
55 years ago, a man over the age of 30 who found himself called to serve God as a priest had very few options. Seminaries for mature men were few, and if that man previously had a career and a family, his options were even more limited. Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary changed all that. The special mission of the seminary requires it to orient its program to men responding to God's call at a later stage of life, often after considerable life experience. The program seeks to help the seminarian to prayerfully evaluate his life experience in the light of faith and to utilize it in order to become a more effective minister to God's people. Pope St. John the 23rd Seminary is committed to our founding mission, the human, spiritual, academic, and pastoral formation of candidates aged 30 and older. It was in 1972 that the seminary was chartered by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to grant the Master of Divinity degree. Our program seeks to expose seminarians in a deep way to the tradition of the Church, authentic Catholic theology, and the lived prayer and liturgical life of the Church, as well as to develop and refine pastoral skills that can build on their life experience. We are nearing 6 decades of service as the only American seminary for mature candidates administered by diocesan priests. More than 150 dioceses and religious orders have entrusted the formation of their candidates for priesthood to our seminary. The town of Weston, Massachusetts has long been our home, but our reach is global. Pope St. John the 23rd alumni, more than 700 strong, serve in significant ministerial roles across the United States, in Australia, Puerto Rico, Guam, Bermuda, Canada, Ireland, and Africa. They are pastors, vicars general, and bishops, managing multiple parishes and complex assignments.
Hearing and discerning the call to the priesthood is something very special. And I'm pleased to introduce someone whose vocation is an inspiration to all of us. The host of our event this evening, His Eminence Cardinal Sean O'Malley, the Archbishop of Boston.
Whenever I'm there, it's very encouraging to see the wonderful spirit in the house. There's a great sense of community, of camaraderie, and of shared purpose. It really is a very wonderful institution, and we're very grateful for the fine work that's being done at Pope John, preparing men for the priesthood. Having been a bishop for 36 years in 4 different dioceses, I have a unique appreciation for what the seminary is doing in training second career vocations. In each of my dioceses, we've had outstanding priests who received their training at Pope John Seminary, and without this seminary, it's very possible that they would never have been priests, they would never have been ordained. And the seminarians at Pope John are men often who've had very interesting careers and a lot of life experience that they bring with them, and something that certainly enriches their priesthood and their ministry once they're ordained. It really is different from the seminary, where you have people coming in after high school, after college, without the same kinds of life experiences that our seminarians at Pope St. John the 23rd have had. Yes, I think a lot of men are unaware of the possibility of a vocation, and therefore just getting the word out is very important. We encourage our pastors and others to help us identify active Catholics in their parish who would be possible candidates. And so getting the word out so that people can be invited. I think the invitation is very important. And a lot of people began to consider the possibility of vocation because an invitation came from their pastor or from a priest that they know to consider the possibility of a second career vocation. The process of training priests is a multi-year process, and so it's important that we are always recruiting people so that every year we're going to have more priests available to serve in our parishes. Prayer and vocational recruitment are very much a part of our ministry, and a part of the way that we evangelize is to make sure that God's people have the ministers that they need. Some people say there's a shortage of vocations. I like to think there's no shortage of vocations. God gives all the vocations the church needs. The shortage is in the responses to those calls, to those vocations. And that's where it behooves all of us to be involved in trying to encourage people who might have a vocation to generously and courageously embrace God's will in their lives. A man who aspires to be a priest must be a man of God. He must be a man of prayer. He must be a man who is very much dedicated to serving God's people. We don't become a priest for ourselves. We become priests to serve others. And these are very challenging times for the church with a limited number of people able to attend the Eucharist. Our Sunday offertory has been greatly reduced. Many of our people have lost their jobs. There's a terrible financial crisis in our country, and that has repercussions in our parishes and in our seminaries and all of our church institutions. And therefore, our outreach to you, asking you to be generous in supporting Pope John, is a very urgent appeal this year as we face many challenges in trying to meet our obligations. But we count on your spirit of sacrifice and commitment and generosity. You are the friends of the seminary and have done so much in the past, and we are counting on you now more than ever. So this seminary serves dioceses all over the country, all over the world, and your contributions are therefore helping to train priests who are going to serve, and many of them in areas where they are experiencing extreme shortage of priests. And so it's a very important opportunity for you to support this ministry that has wide-reaching effects, because we have been preparing priests for dioceses all over the world. I just want to express my gratitude to Father Kiley, to all of the members of the faculty and staff, the Board of Trustees, and all of those who've worked so hard on this annual event. And to thank all of you who have turned in. We ask you to please keep us in your prayers and to be generous in your financial support of the seminary. And let me conclude by asking for God's blessing upon all of you and your loved ones. As I say, may the blessing of Almighty God, through the intercession of Our Lady and Saint Joseph and all the saints, descend upon you, your families, your loved ones, and your ministries, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Cardinal Sean. We're so grateful for your leadership and for the priestly example that inspires us all to be so much better. Parishes throughout the country and the world have been strengthened by over 700 alumni priests, and your intentional generosity has helped strengthen their formation. Our benefactors are a vital part of the seminary community, and we appreciate all that you do for our men. Throughout this event and after, we are incorporating a Text to Give campaign. If you would like to contribute, text the word GIVE to 833-325-0344, and you will directly make a difference for these men in formation at Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary. At this time, some special people would like to share their stories about their calling.
I was married, and I was in Chartres, France, for several years, and my wife developed breast cancer. I was there doing a holiday in France, Bastille Day, and I desperately needed to see a priest. I knocked on one door, and the housekeeper secretary opened the door, which was most surprising. It was around 5 o'clock or so. And I told her the reason I needed to see a priest. And she hesitated, and she said, well, he's in a meeting. It's a dinner meeting. And indeed he was. And she said, but from what you told me, I will see if he can come. She whispered to him. He got up, speaking in French, of course, and I could hear him say that you'll have to excuse me, gentlemen, because there's a matter I have to attend to. He came to her bedside and anointed her, and what used to be called the last rites, what is now the sacrament of the sick, the anointing, and she thanked him. She says, very kind of you to come and do this. And I told her just briefly that he left an important meeting, and he said, we are so glad to have the two of you in France. And she smiled and said, Father, we are so glad to have you come here. She died not long afterwards. And that left an indelible impression in my mind. This is the essence of what a priest did and does.
Before seminary, I had a 35-year career. I was a public servant. My second summer, I had 2 churches in 2 towns. I was a seminarian, not a deacon, when I was at the nursing home, and somebody wanted to go to confession. I had to say, let me get a hold of Father Bradkey in Glenwood Springs and see when he can come to hear your confession. All of a sudden, somewhere in the Midwest, I was driving along, and I blurted out loud, I want to be a priest. That was the first time I said that. And that's when I realized that God was calling me to the priesthood. That was an enormous moment of revelation, conversion, and transformation. It changed what I was doing at the seminary. It changed my approach. And ultimately, it changed who I am.
Growing up in North Carolina and Virginia, being part of a strong Catholic family, I went to college, got a degree in accounting, and working in construction and development of hotels. So I then spent 20 years as a project manager. I had worked into a position where I could take an early retirement and wanted to serve the church. And lo and behold, the bishop said, Chris, I can hire more accountants. I can find other project managers. But what the church is really short of is priests. And I did not know about John the 23rd at that time. And they told me and set me up for a visit. And it was a beautiful fit from the very start. I had people at home were worried that I was going to come back speaking like one of the Kennedys or something. I'm so happy that the bishop sent me to John the 23rd. And the very way that you learn to be yourself, that you can be your complete self and give to others what Christ is trying to give to you.
Before I entered the seminary, like a lot of other men at John the 23rd, I had a sort of different kind of path getting there. I'm the widowed father of 3 adult children. My wife and I had both been horse doctors for 25 years before she passed away. Lived on a 150-acre farm with our kids where we raised horses and cattle and sheep and chickens and pretty much anything else a child would want pet-wise. And after Marilyn died in 2005, I sort of came to the realization that as my kids were leaving the nest, that God was calling me to a second vocation in life. I've been blessed in a way that few people are with 2 wonderful vocations.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn and served as a priest of Brooklyn until I was called by the Holy Father to serve as a bishop. So that was 14 years ago, and I'm a priest 33 years. The first time I heard of Pope St. John the 23rd was when I was in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn has had a long history of sending men to the seminary because of its great track record and its great formation. And the fact that it provides a unique environment for those who may be a bit older, who come with life experience and a level of maturity that younger men have not yet achieved. One of the things I admire the most is that in a respectful environment, it calls upon not only the gifts and talents of these men, but the accumulated wisdom they have acquired in their life journey. And that is an essential tool in their proper formation to become a good, holy, healthy priest. In some seminaries where the disproportionate amount of men are younger, that essential task can sometimes get lost. But at Pope St. John the 23rd, it's an essential part of the formation program.
The reason that I'm a priest today is Pope St. John the 23rd, and that's enormously important to me because being a priest is enormously important to me.
Our seminary has long been a place where men of diverse backgrounds, careers, interests, and ages come together. They learn about each other, they learn from each other, and they help one another to succeed here at Pope St. John and subsequently in their first roles in parish ministry after the seminary. Seminarians, once ordained, assume various roles within the church and ultimately provide a unique value when relating to parishioners because of their extensive life experiences.
I am Ernesto Alonso, seminarian of Pope John the 23rd National Seminary. To help us support our seminary, you can text GIFT to 833-325-0344. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Jesus chose people from second careers, be it Simon or Andrew or John or any of them. Their careers really shaped who they were. In fact, even after the resurrection, Peter and Andrew and John and James went back to fishing for a little while. And that was part of their ministry as well. So it's nice to have an institution that is uniquely for those second career vocations so that the priest can be formed to be who he is based on where he's coming from, and then bring that into where he's going in the future as a priest.
Here at the seminary, there's men from all over the world, and no two are even similar. The different kinds of guys that come here, it's pretty amazing. They've got such great life experiences. They've all done things. Some of them have grandkids. Some of them have children.
Having dealt in war zones with crisis situations, we were locked down for several months, right? Nobody going out of their homes except to the grocery store for whatever needed, not coming to church. But I never stopped having a mass. That comes from my media background. One of the skills as a journalist, you have to be a good listener in order to listen to people's stories. So you can retell them very easily. Well, guess what? You need to be a good listener to be a priest. In fact, most of the time, you got to keep your mouth shut. Okay, just listen to people and let them tell their story.
I can relate. I'm a dad. I got a kid in college. I got a daughter who's living on her own. I'm an ex-husband. I've been through a lot. I met with my spiritual director over the summer, and he and I talked about how all the pieces of my life that I've experienced, I've integrated them into who I am today. And I kind of think of it like a mosaic. And because of that, I'm able to take all of my experiences. My ministry will not be about being a dad or being an ex-husband or being a teacher. I mean, those are all facets of who I am, and I will use those experiences, those talents that I have, when it's appropriate, to help other people travel through their journey and get to know God.
This seminary is designed to form these men whose life experiences and age means that the way that we learn, the way that we see things, the experience that we bring is much different than a seminary for younger men who may have just finished college or college seminary, and people can relate in a different way to us because our experiences that we bring to the seminary is very much similar to the people that we're called to serve. These men, past and present, heard a call and tried to answer it, and through the graces of God, their bishop, our archbishop, said yes.
I think that just having a different opinion, for other people see things differently, and they from their different backgrounds. So what it does is allows you to open your mind, and there are people come from places that are the way that they celebrate the Eucharist is different than we would normally find within the church, and I just think that having that difference of opinion, having that just the different way that they celebrate the faith allows you to open your mind.
My first vocation was really as a married man. I went to seminary actually for the Diocese of Bridgeport for 1 year. But after 1 year, I left the program. And 2 years later, I married Diane. Shortly after we began our marriage, I began a career at the Knights of Columbus Supreme Office in New Haven, Connecticut. I had the privilege of handling complaints regarding our insurance program. And that really taught me how to listen to people, because you can't help people to resolve their questions and their problems until you first listen to them.
I would call it a great fraternity amongst one another. And again, we're at the point where if someone kind of starts to slip out of line, we have that fraternal correction where one guy will approach another brother and say, hey, you need to pick it up a little bit, or you need to be more aware of this, or you may have said something that insulted or offended someone else. Because again, we have this multicultural background, this diversity, you may not be aware of how it is for someone else that comes from another area of the world. And this fraternal correction allows you to become more mindful of where they're coming from so that you can meet them where they're at. And that's been the heart of the new evangelization of what Pope Francis has been trying to speak to us about as a church, to meet others where they're at. And that's been great practice for me amongst my brothers here in 4th Theology at Pope St. John the 23rd Seminary.
Hi, my name is Mike Dixon. I'm a first-year seminarian at Pope St. John Seminary. If you'd like to contribute, please text the word GIVE to 833-325-0344. Thank you so much for your support. God bless.
Priestly formation at Pope St. John the 23rd is designed to foster the human, spiritual, intellectual, and the pastoral growth of the seminarian in order to help him become an effective priest. Our program is based on over 50 years of teaching the adult learner. Our formators excel in understanding the individual needs and the varied backgrounds of our seminarians. We are structured to give seminarians the tools to succeed, and as importantly, the foundation to build their own means of service, guidance, and leadership.
The formation program in the seminary is supported by 4 pillars: the human, the academic, the spiritual, and the pastoral. Being that said, anything that we do here in the house is for our formation, and everything complements our formation. So we are learning in the classroom, we are praying in the chapel, we are serving people outside the house in hospitals, in parishes, teaching RCIA, catechesis. The deacons go out every weekend to perform their duties as deacons in the liturgy. And it's a rich process of formation that everything comes together for our good.
The schedule is very intentional. It's meant to deepen a closer relationship to Christ, the model of the priesthood, and also to grow in one's relational capacities so that one can work effectively with brother priests and with the women and men of our parishes.
All of the faculty members, regardless of what their academic specialty was, regardless of what their advanced academic degree that gave them the credentials to teach theology or scripture or what have you at the seminary, whatever their academic qualifications were, their greater qualifications were that they were all pastors. And from the get-go, they were teaching us pastoral care, how to be pastors. We're all taught from the perspective of what you need to know to preach this on Sundays to your congregation. And that was an orientation that transcended the entire Pope John curriculum. And I think that was one of the principal keys to the superb training and education that I was given that allowed me to hit the deck running when I arrived at my first assignment.
It's geared toward around the program that they offer, you see, meaning, it depends on what year you're in. Okay, so if you're in your first year, you're kind of just getting new to everything, so you're going to pretty much stay around home. You go out to parish visits and such. But the second year, you go into a chaplaincy, usually. Hospitals, nursing homes, things like that. You spend one day a week in that chaplain room. Very, very beneficial. Helps you with your bedside manners. And you learn to love those who are suffering or sick and dying. You learn to love them because you start seeing Christ in them. You see that where Christ suffered in them. Your third year, you're prepping up to be a deacon, you see. So you're kind of like, you're doing everything you can. You want to become that cleric because you're so eager. You see, because once basically you become a deacon, you're pretty much ordained a priest then. And then that last year, those last 2 years you're spending in parishes, but especially more so in that fourth year. I remember because of my class schedule, I was spending 3 days from Friday through Sunday in the parish, you see. And then I was in classes on Monday through Thursday. It kind of grooms you, puts you into a mode where you're going to be in a parish, a regimen of that. And it's not really a tight one, it's kind of moving you in that direction, you see, as you more and more you advance in years at the seminary.
This place isn't like any place that I've ever been in. Working in the business world, it's very competitive. This is the most non-competitive environment that I've ever been in. And at first I was taken back by it. You start working, you're in competition to get that next promotion. You always feel as though someone's trying to take that job from you. But here it's unlike that. We're all brothers. We help each other out. It starts from day one, that orientation team helping us, helping us to feel welcome, to the upperclassmen giving us their notes. And Everyone here wants you to succeed, and you don't find that anywhere else.
You know, first in the back of my mind, I know I'm being formed to be someday as a Roman Catholic priest. That is in the back of my mind. So every day I live to that, and I embrace that vocation that I have received. So going to classes, I try to connect the dots in all the different classes I have, whether it is, Trinity and Christology, whether it is moral theology, whether it is, Old Testament, whether it is pastoral counseling. So I try to see these classes, I try to get something out of these classes to help me into, my priestly journey. The one class which I haven't taken this class yet, but at least my elder brothers in second year, third year, and fourth year, they have had this class, but it's called pastoral ministry, where they go out, to different places, nursing homes, hospitals, and maybe food pantry places. That is something I had never thought that I would be involved into as a part of the class curriculum, which I think it's the best thing as a seminarian, as a person who is pursuing to be a priest. I'd never thought of I could have a class where I go out and then have an experience of the true gospel. And to me, that really amazed me, because I share with my brother seminarians what it was. Those who have had it, I used to share with them when they came back, and they have given me, positive, feedbacks, good experiences. So it's something that surprised me. But when I found out that it's something that, we need to do as future priests, I think that is something I'm looking forward to embrace, actually. Yeah, it's more, it's good to be in class, but I think it's more important also to be outside and meet the people that we're going to be ministering to.
Hello, this is Deacon Stephen Andre. I encourage you to continue your support for the seminarians by texting the word GIVE to 833-325-0344. We, all the seminarians here at the seminary, wish to thank you for your support.
This pandemic has been so hard on everybody, disrupting our lives in so many different ways. COVID-19 has become part of our daily vocabulary. And every time we turn on the television or pick up the newspaper, we're reminded of the devastating effect of this virus throughout the world. As we bear witness to the impact, the sadness, and the disruption of this worldwide pandemic, it's evident that more priests are needed. People need inspiration and grounding, and more families today need support. This seminary is the premier destination for our nation's bishops to send their more mature men to be formed after the mind and the heart of Christ, and to emerge ready to serve God's church as holy, happy, and balanced priests. Our success in completing this special service to the church is accomplished through the dedicated and generous support of faithful people like you.
So why do I think priests are more important now than ever? I don't know if it's more important than ever, but they sure are important now, because we are right at that point, in my opinion, in this country where we can decide to go one way or the other. We can go the way of faith and the way of charity and the way of joy, or we could try another way.
Definitely, we need priests right now.
The reason that people's support for the Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary is critical is because we don't have enough priests, okay? In my 5 years here, there have been stretches of 6 to 9 months where I've been the only full-time functioning priest here. And what's important is that people realize that you don't just need to be 18 years old to go into the seminary. You don't need to have heard at your first Holy Communion you need to be a priest. Maybe you need to hear it at 55 years old that you need to be a priest, and that that's God's perfect plan for your life. So the support for Pope St. John is so critical, because what it generates are priests with human life experience.
The older priests help to fill in that shortage. We still need more younger ones, more older ones, but we've come in at a time, and oftentimes in many of the dioceses and archdioceses, the older priests have come in and alleviated that shortage. The secular society has made the job a little more difficult of not so much becoming a priest, but gathering priests.
Their discernment is their personal discernment about whether or not this was right for them. In most cases, is months, if not years. In many cases, decades. They've been thinking about this, and finally, they made that final step to answer the call and to come in to find out more about this place. I think for all of us, both for lay people and those who are perhaps discerning of vocation, is to be open to the possibility, to not give in to fear or hesitation or the like, and answer that call. See where it takes you.
When you hear these men tell their stories of where they came from, how they got here, and what they hope to accomplish, that is life-changing for a lot of people sitting in the audience. And it really is true. With age does come a certain perspective and a certain wisdom that you don't have even when you're 40. Life is very, very different. The church just has to produce more of these men and then get them out in the public. Not only in the church, but get them out in the public. I think the public doesn't understand who's there. And I know it's a small percentage of priests in the whole, number of priests in the church, but it's a start.
Why do we need priests today? Well, we need priests today just to ensure the church for tomorrow. I was like, as much as I love my priest at home, hopefully the future generations will have a priest that will lead them to a solid foundation in the truth. And it's God's truth, not a relativistic view of the truth. So we need that to preserve God's message for future generations.
The church definitely needs men of God that are holy to become priests for Jesus Christ. There is so much need out here in the world to bring God's grace, to bring God's hope, to bring God's help to so many others. And as St. Teresa of Avila once said, Jesus has no hands on earth but yours. He has no legs here on earth but yours. And if I, as a priest, God willing, can bring his message and help others along their way to see God in the midst of such chaos and dysfunction, that's a great reward.
As we work to fulfill our mission and to expand our reach, we're excited to continue serving the Catholic Church. Pope St. John the 23rd is vital and strong, and we're fortunate that so many understand and support the importance of our unique mission. That support comes in a variety of different ways and makes a direct impact on forming our seminarians and on strengthening the church. Our annual tuition only covers half the cost of a seminarian's education. The philanthropy of generous benefactors provides the other half. For this generosity, we are greatly appreciative, and we cherish our bonds with all our donors.
Having grown up nearby, I was familiar with the seminary in terms of the location, but I had not spent a lot of time here. I would say my initial interest was predicated on a general interest in support of vocations generally, but also a particular interest in the unique mission of this institution to form older men. So I was asked to join the Board of Trustees, and as mentioned, that was about 6 years ago, and have grown ever closer during that time period. To see what these men have done, that's the equivalent of graduation, except it's so much more. To see these men finally committing themselves fully to service to the church, to the Lord, for life is like no other moment. There's no equivalent to that in the secular world. You can have all the success you want in business or professional life, and there's no equivalent to that. I would first extend thanks to the supporters and benefactors, both for this event, but of the community in general. There are an abundance of causes and charitable pursuits and philanthropy that we can pursue, and you've chosen to support Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary. That support is important. It's meaningful. It's impactful. It makes good priests. It will help secure the future of this institution, formed as it was in 1964, for another generation to forever to come. It's as simple as that. The two most underused words in the English language are thank you, and I would extend that thanks as a trustee to all of you. It does make a difference.
This year has taught us all, you just never know what's going to happen. And so it would be nice to have more of a cushion and more of an endowment. But we have incredibly generous donors. I think it's important to support the seminary financially because the church is worldwide. And from my perspective, and from what I hear, not only in the Archdiocese of Boston, but nationwide, worldwide, there is a need for priests. And if my support of the seminary can make the difference between someone in another state, another country, being able to attend Mass, 4 times a month, as opposed to every 4 months, then I'm happy to do that, because we are all part of the universal church. I probably didn't have that much to do with their success, but I like to think that there was just a little part of me with the work that I'm doing with them that contributed to their success. And that's all we want, is for all of them to be successful.
I think we are lucky in the fact that we get to support the seminary and see Father Wren here at our parish. We understand there's only so few priests who graduate every single year, get ordained every single year, and we're one of the parishes that are lucky enough to receive one of them. I think there's always that life experience that the priest, like Father Wren's coming in with. He wasn't right into the priesthood right out of high school or college.
I can still remember when we first met at that retreat, you could see his life experience and you could see that he understood what was going on with families. He had that experience. So our first lawn party was actually very special. I had mentioned previously I was pregnant with Tyler. It was in the fall of 2007, and Cardinal Sean was there, and it was lovely to see him. We got to shake his hand and meet him, and we had mentioned that we were expecting, and he gave us a wonderful blessing, and it just swelled my heart. And I did feel a time when I had Tyler, there were some issues, and I think that prayer over, I thought back to that immediately and was truly grateful for that experience.
Money is a wonderful thing. And the joy of money is being able to give it away. I was a financial advisor for years, and I used to tell my clients, the joy of money is it gives you control of your life. Some, to a degree, not complete control of your life, but it does give you a better control of your life. And it gives you the opportunity to be generous to friends, to family mostly, and to the organizations to which you are committed. And the joy of money is giving it away. And I have always believed that. And it's easy to write a check, but I'll tell you, the joy of writing it, I don't even have to see where it goes and what the results are. But the joy of sending it off and saying, this is going to help.
We'd like to take this opportunity to appreciate those who support us. but also to speak to those who are learning about our mission. We're grateful to everyone who takes the time to learn about our formation program and makes the decision that it's important to give. If you are learning about us for the first time, we hope that you'll consider joining our community with a gift of your own.
This seminary, and probably no seminary at all, none of them would exist without genuine, gracious donors. And it's the donors that really step up and make the big contributions that keep the seminaries functional. There's no money to speak of in the church to fund a seminarian's education. It's just too expensive, and it just takes a lot of time. And I'll be the first one to say, when they told me I was going to be in seminary for 5 years, I was like, what? But it does take years of formation, not because you need the time to learn the theology. You can learn the theology very quickly, but you need the time to develop a relationship with God, and that comes through prayer, and that just takes years. I wouldn't be here, I would not be effective, I wouldn't be a good deacon if it wasn't for the years of formation. The church has shrunk down and needs to grow again, right? And for her to grow again, she needs religious. She needs priests and she needs sisters. You can't have priests without seminary, and you can't have a seminary without generous donations. It's just not possible to make things like this happen with collections on a Sunday, because it takes so much time and it demands 100% commitment from every man that's in it. And so my message to the donors is, I couldn't believe how much I've changed personally in the years that I've been in formation. And I understand now that I've done it, how necessary it is. And I understand how the church absolutely needs more men to become priests. Even in dioceses that are growing, they still need more men to be priests. And that in this condition that we're in the state that the church is in now, without generous donors, you will not keep seminaries open. Without those donors and without those seminaries, you won't have priests for the parishes.
And this is only possible because of the men and women out there who are, supporting us spiritually, financially, in all sorts of ways. So we want to thank them so much, and we pray for them.
My foundational motif has really been because of Pope St. John the 23rd. The way that I was taught, the way that I was formed, the challenges that they put me through, even when I didn't want to go down a particular road or a particular way, they centered me back on that same path of being formed. And as donors, I would say that this is something that should continue, to do whatever that you can to support Pope St. John the 23rd, because there are guys like me. I'm no different. There are guys like me that would need that support, that foundational support that Pope St. John the 23rd can provide. And I think it's so important and crucial. Unlike other seminaries, there is an expression that I often talk about in my homilies, and it has to do with the chalice. It's not the external portion of the chalice that is important. It is the internal portion of the chalice. It is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ that's important. It is not the frills of what it takes to become a priest. It's not the externals. It's not the vestments. It's not the church building in and of itself, but it's what is internal to the heart. It is what provides us this mechanism that gives us this strength that no matter where we are in our journey, no matter what our mission might be given forth by our bishop, that we will still be going forth into our communities with the basic fundamentals of preaching the gospel. And I think that from Pope St. John the 23rd, if your help is supportive to men like me, it's crucial to our survival as a church community.
This seminary truly appreciates the generosity of our donors, and we promise to fulfill our mission. Preserving this special place will allow us to continue making a difference. Now, we'd like you to hear how our mission and our men have made an impact.
Needless to say, the whole notion of racism is very alive and well in my community, and that's the same that has existed throughout our nation at this point, which gives, for me, the first African-American priest in Wilmington, Delaware, a challenge. Being the first in this community is kind of difficult because people are not really knowledgeable about the immensity, if you will, the broadness of the church. But I just want to pivot on that note and say something that's quite unique to my experience at Pope St. John the 23rd. And I think that that is remarkable because what I've experienced in ministry here in Wilmington for the last 10 years is not what I experienced at Pope St. John the 23rd. In other words, I was totally embraced with my differences and uniquenesses. My being a father, my being a permanent deacon, I was totally embraced and allowed to flourish, to learn and to grow and to be nurtured and cared for. That is exceptional to the environment that I came and have worked in for the last 10 years.
Those who are supporting this seminary, the benefactors and everybody who are saying that people like me, have a chance or have a second chance, to be here. So every day I don't take things for granted. I pray, I go down on my knees and I pray about it.
Went kind of from a fun life in business, but that's a lonesome life as well. And in these new years of priesthood, it's not lonesome. It's one of service, and I'm so happy that the bishop sent me to John the 23rd, True Life of Vocation. It's your extension role of being family. And if we look around at our own families, that's never boring. If your family's anything like mine, look around the table next time you're all together, and it's a big mixed match of everything. And that's a great gift to the formation that we received. It feels so natural to do. So I thank all those who had that tradition before me and came and visited us, and it's now part of our natural response and mine as well. So, I still don't talk like a Kennedy, but I'm ever changed by my time in Weston.
I am most excited, I think, to just be present to people in the parish. It's just so obvious to me now, like there's something very special about religious life for people who, for the laity out in the parish, right? And it's not just priests, it's priests or brothers or sisters, it's any religious. When you show up in a room and you've got your clerics on, there's a certain like change of the atmosphere. There's a certain presence that comes up, and people relate to religious different than they necessarily relate to somebody who's not religious. And that's not a good or a bad thing, but it shows unequivocally that God is present. And so the best part about being a priest or any religious, in my opinion, is as soon as you're interacting with somebody, the second you're interacting with somebody, God is present. There's no question about it. Just by the way that the life that you lead, there's something so precious about the fact that our church still demands that people who are religious are celibate and devoted to the church only. And I think that's why, because when you go and you interact with anybody, immediately God is present and there's no question about it. And people can feel that. They're not People don't like Jesus because he has priests. People like Jesus because he is all good and he is the creator of everything that is good. When you come into the room as a religious, they're reminded of Jesus, not you. And so that's just, I've seen it over and over again, and it's just like that's more than anything else, just being with people and knowing that Jesus is going to come to them regardless, right? But just that I'm present, and I'll be a part of Jesus getting to those people, just one-on-one. That is the part I'm looking forward to the most.
Tonight's been about our seminarians, but it's also been about you. Continue this journey with our seminarians and with the church, with your prayers and your support. I pray that together we would celebrate the many achievements of Pope St. John the 23rd Seminary. Thank you for all that you do in support of our seminarians and of our priests, as together we go forward to build up the church. May you always have love to share, cash to spare, tires with air, and friends who truly care. Amen.
I miss the party. I miss seeing all of my friends that are still there teaching and on staff. I miss seeing my classmates and those in the classes above and below me. I miss seeing all of the wonderful people that have been supporting the seminary. It'll be wonderful when we can be back together again. And remember that all of this good work that we do is because it's about Trinitarian relationships. It's about building up community.
The message that I have for someone contemplating a vocation to the priesthood is exactly what Father Frank Garcia said to me: do it. And I'll tell you why. We all become experts in reasons not to do something. One of the natural consequences of that is woulda, coulda, shoulda. And one of the things that I've learned as I've grown older is that you never want to live in that world of woulda, coulda, shoulda.
And quite frankly, without priests, there is no Eucharist. Without the Eucharist, there is no church. So one of the greatest gifts we have is the gift of the ministerial priesthood. And therefore, I'm hoping and praying that people will come to the lawn party recognizing their ambassadors, recognizing they need to pray, and recognizing we need their financial support. For those three reasons, the lawn party is extremely important.